Sitting here with Joris for our second talk. Joris Vincken, our first talk was in Dutch, and now a little talk in English. That's not our native language.
No.
We're both from Holland, so please excuse us if we don't sound American or English. You spend a lot of time in America.
A fair amount.
Yeah. First question that comes to mind is, what is the big difference between Europe and America?
Well, I mean, it's all people. So both in Europe and America, you've got all kinds of people.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you could say that in general there is a big difference. And obviously, especially the United States, it's so big that the difference between the different states is so huge. It's like between the Netherlands and Spain.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it comes to mind because there's a lot of talk going on in the country where we live about differences, us versus them, and we're all searching for that unity, that feeling of sameness or something. Is that something that in America can be found more easily than over here in Europe?
I think we're all looking to belong to a group. As a human being, we're, an animal that loves to be in a group.
Yeah.
And so we love to be with people that feel familiar. I think that's a very natural thing. And that's probably the source of where we start discriminating people. Of you belong to me and another person doesn't. I think in a sense that's the same anywhere you go in the world. So
the fight against racism is a useless fight?
I think it's more a fight against ourselves, because if I truly feel strengthened in my culture, in my wherever I feel at home, then anybody else with a different view of life is not a threat, but is actually making my life more rich, because they offer something that I didn't know before.
Yeah.
But if I'm a bit insecure about my life or myself, then yes, somebody else could feel like they're taking over, or they're changing what I feel is my tradition, which is often not really a tradition, but just something that a small group of people are used to doing for a couple of years.
So the threat doesn't come from outside, but the fear comes from inside.
Yeah, I think we humans are great at creating fear inside. Yeah.
We create it ourselves.
Of course. If you have 5 people, some will have fear, some won't. That's how we... I think it's human nature. We're focused very much on what's not right in both ourselves and the world around us. When we're young, we are asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? So we need to become something in order to be someone, instead of we're just someone and we just play and do a lot of things, which, the fact that I study something or that I have a certain skill doesn't necessarily make me a better human being. But somehow the two got interconnected. If I got either a lot of money, or if I'm very spiritual, I've got very wise words, then I'm more valuable than somebody who doesn't have that. Yeah. I don't know where we got that. But it's very rooted in our society and in life.
Yeah, it's cool.
It probably starts the day we were born. The moment we start walking, our parents go, "Hey, great that you're making your first steps." And then we start talking, and then indeed in school it's very much like that. If your brain functions better than other kids' brain, you get a lot of applause for that.
And better grades.
Better grades.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a better paid job later on.
Yeah.
And so, but it works that way. If 10 people talk to us and 9 tell us how beautiful we are, but this one person will say, "I don't like this or that about you," it's that one person that we'll remember, that we think about.
How come?
I think because we never learned that there's very few people that tell us that how magical we are, how beautiful we are, that there's nothing wrong with us, that that we don't need to become anything or do anything in order to be a miracle. The moment we are born, we are a miracle. We're breathing, our heart is beating, and it's so easy to step past that and say, oh no, that's not good enough. But with all our scientific technology that we have, we still can't make this pillow breathe.
No.
So it's a miracle that what we are, and it's so easy to miss that.
Yeah, that's beautifully said.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Joris, can you tell us something about your spiritual path? When did it start and why did it start?
I have no idea why it started. It just started.
Yeah.
Even when I was in primary school, I was writing poetry and just wondering, why are we here? Why is life like it is?
Yeah.
And that curiosity just developed, and I think it's also part of why I love doing music, because that's an exploration into something that is very difficult to explain with our mind. Why is one song beautiful and the other one isn't?
Yeah.
And you can learn chords, but you can't really learn that.
Yeah.
And so I had that fascination always, and from there I started exploring whatever was possible, any book, any teacher that I could find, anything that was related to that journey.
Yeah. Anything in particular, any book that gave you that first glimpse of what you were searching for?
No, there wasn't anything specific. I think, every person that writes, inspires a little bit, and definitely someone who inspired me a lot was Rumi. His poetry is, it's beautiful for the heart, but it's also very nourishing for our mind, because he writes a lot of things that are so, I don't know how to put that into words, but it's beautiful what he writes in such simplicity. And I learned a lot from people that made me search in places where I didn't find anything. Sometimes you need to travel the journey where you don't find it. Mm-hmm. If I could learn everything about how to play a piano, but unless I start playing it and making a lot of mistakes, I'll never learn to play the piano. No
Mm-hmm.
matter how much confidence I have, no matter how much knowledge I have.
So no regrets about some people you visited, books you read?
No, I have no absolutely zero regrets. No, I'm very happy that I did all the things, even the things that were painful or that weren't, that didn't feel honest afterwards. Because sometimes you need that reflection. And in my case, it was very much that initially I used to do music, and that was my profession, and I was very much hoping that, if I would be successful in the world, if I would have whatever hit records, I would be happy, or whatever word, fulfilled. And that didn't happen. I did have the hit records, but I didn't feel rich. I felt lonelier than I ever had felt.
How come? Can you get an explanation?
I think there was a certain amount of disappointment when you realize, I had this dream when I was 16 of, having a top chart hit or something like that, or a golden record, and then when you have it, it didn't make me any wiser, or didn't make me any... Mm-hmm. I was still Joris.
Yeah.
And, with a feeling of, I could do better, because whatever it is that you do, you can always do better. So that's like an endless journey. I can always do a better mix, or play better piano, and so it's an endless journey towards a tomorrow that never comes, because it's always a day away. And so I felt this is not, it's not bringing what I'm seeking. So I have to stop this journey of seeking it in the world. I have to find it inside myself. Mm-hmm. And so I sort of walked away from all of it and started a journey very passionate with meditation and prayer, and that took me 10 years to discover. I realized that I was still running for a tomorrow that was better, because tomorrow I would be more still. Tomorrow I would be more kind. I would be more wise. Tomorrow I would have more knowledge. I would, whatever. There was always still this tomorrow. And in that running away from this very moment, it's so easy to miss the magic that we are. How magic, even the fact that I can think that I'm not good enough is a miracle. I mean, we look at, for example, a beautiful stone, whether that's a crystal or maybe the purest of diamonds, and we look at how beautiful its energy is. But that stone can never breathe the way we can breathe. It doesn't have a heart that's beating. It doesn't have thoughts, even thoughts of not being good enough. It can't do all of that. So we're 1,000 times more beautiful than that stone can ever be. And still we see ourselves as inadequate.
Yeah, not good enough.
And that is a miracle, that we are capable of seeing ourselves as inadequate is magical.
Yeah, but still we search for that completeness, that wholeness. We want to feel at ease. We want to feel at peace and be good enough. Can we blame someone or something? That's I'm still in that phase that I think, well, it's all because of society, who tells me every day I have to buy this watch to be good enough. I have to drive this car and then I'm good enough. Can I blame capitalism for this feeling of not being right as I am?
You can blame anything or anyone, but the truth is you are good enough. You are absolutely good enough.
But who tells me that every day?
Nobody needs to tell you that, because even if you think you're not, it doesn't mean... So the fact that I think I'm good enough or not good enough doesn't change the fact that I am. I am divine. I mean, in the Bible it says we're created in the image of God. Mm-hmm. If that's really true, then that's what we are. We are created in the image of divinity.
We are gods.
You could say that. But and that doesn't matter whether we think we are or not. It is what we are. It is our true nature, that we always are. So we don't need to find anything. We don't need to go anywhere. We don't need to become anything, because we are already everything, including the thoughts of not being good enough. Yeah. Maybe they're part of perfection as well. Maybe it's just a beautiful experience of an expression of God believing that it's not God, that it's not love, that there's even
something wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even that, there needs to be a lot of love to have the feeling that something's wrong. That's
a good one. Can you say that once more?
There needs to be love to have the feeling that something's wrong. Because in the end, it's an expression of this longing for wholeness, for being one again. And that's where any feeling of it's not right comes from. Yeah. But the core of that, where that feeling comes from, where it starts, is pure love.
Yeah. It could, some people say, and I can believe something in that it could become quite boring if I could sit all day thinking everything is perfect. So that's why I create that own drama, to have some opposite, to feel alive or to...
Yeah, well, my life is definitely not boring. Because I think life's not boring. People aren't boring. You meet so many different people. At least I meet a lot of different people, and I think we all do. And if we stop trying to fix them or stop trying to make them think like we think, I see it this way, and so the other person has to see it like that. But if I can just be in awe for the miracle that they are, then suddenly even the most boring people become very interesting, because underneath whatever it is that moves them is a heart that's burning, is a heart that's longing for this completeness. And we all seek it in a different way. One seeks it in a new Ferrari, the other one in the next episode of their favorite TV show, and the other one in Advaita or their spiritual teacher or whatever.
Yeah, but what is it that we are searching for? Can you name that? Can you give that a label?
We're searching for what we are.
So
we want to know what we are.
Yeah. We're searching for home.
Well, we are home. But even if I'm in my home, I want to look around and enjoy my home. So why not explore life like that?
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing. It's just that we sometimes fail to see that it's a miracle. But there's nothing wrong with anything. There's not one hair out of place.
Even Islamic State, who are fighting in Syria and Iraq and planting bombs, terrorism.
For our mind, that's almost impossible to believe or to understand. But the truth is, for most people, that is something that is not real in a sense. Because I've never met anyone there. I've never been there.
Mm-hmm.
So my life from day to day, that's not a part of it, except for what I would read in the news.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is we sort of step away from our responsibility by saying there's a problem on the other end of the world and that's why I have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of saying, but I take responsibility for who I am right now and how I interact with everyone that I meet. Because that will really change the world. If everybody would inspire one other person, the whole world would be at peace.
Mm-hmm.
But because we complain about potential dangers that happen around the corner, which we never know, we have no idea whether or not we're going to be alive tomorrow. So why worry about things that might or might not happen?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of really focusing on, hey, there's someone sitting in front of me who is asking for my attention, for my love. We sometimes are so busy on reading social media that we don't see our kids, or that we don't see how our partner is asking for attention.
Yeah. So we use this danger and war in the world as an excuse of not being with our attention right here, right now.
Well, it's scary to be right here, right now, because that would mean that we would have to admit that, that we are not small, that we are, that we are everything. Because it's much easier to say I'm small and I don't know anything and so I better make myself invisible, than to say, hey, I love you and I'm here for you. I haven't got any answers, but I'm still here for you and I'm listening.
Total openness, vulnerability,
yeah, but not from a naive place, but from a place of deep trust, knowing that what I am cannot really be touched.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody can hurt my body, but they can't hurt what I really am. And
can someone hurt my feelings?
Probably, yeah. But am I my feelings? Am I what I'm thinking?
We think we are that.
Some people do. I don't.
Yeah, no, but
I mean, there's a lot of thoughts, and some of them are lovely thoughts, and some of them are thoughts that I don't find that interesting, and so I don't have to silence them. These thoughts are still there, but I don't always have to listen to them. They're just just like my hands, they're very valuable tools, or just like my feet are great for walking, but they're not that great for I don't know, for operating a camera,
mm-hmm.
because my hands are better for that. And that's the same way with my thoughts, with my mind. They're great at a lot of things, and they're very efficient at for example, seeing danger when I cross the road, or when I don't know, or when I need to calculate the amount of taxes that I need to pay. But they're not that great at explaining why my heart is singing, or why some music makes me cry and other music makes me upset. My mind can't explain that.
Yeah. And how come? There must be a time and place where you were believing all your thoughts and feelings, and you found out that it made you very down and depressed.
Mm-hmm.
Could you say that was necessary? Otherwise you would have never found out that you were creating your own drama?
I wouldn't say anything was necessary, because I don't believe that seeing illusion in a different way is necessary. It's just inevitable that at some point we start questioning, is what we think the world around us is if that's real. I think it's inevitable that at some point we start questioning that.
Yeah, but not for everyone. There are a lot of musicians also who just they throw themselves off a cliff. They think they don't see.
Well, maybe that's their way of finding life. I don't know, because I don't know what happens. Once our body is not alive anymore, and it's very easy to get into a very theoretical way of thinking about that and trying to figure out what if, and but if I stay in this moment and just I'm sitting here and I'm breathing and I'm alive and I'm having a great conversation with you, then I don't need to worry about anything else and trying to have all the answers in my mind. I'm just amazed at all the questions we can come up with, because that is what makes human beings truly a miracle, that we have all these questions. And yes, there are 1,000 answers to every question. But to come up with these questions, just to wonder, why is my life like this, or why is this, or why, that is, if you look at small children, they go why all the time. They drive adults nuts with it. But I mean, how amazing is it that we have that skill of wondering and being, awed by life.
Yeah. So nothing wrong with questioning everything.
Questions are great. I love questions. I don't care that much about the answers, but the questions are great.
But maybe that's the difference. For me, a question is not that interesting. I want answers. I want truths. I want someone to tell me, no, there is no free will. Yes, you are in control. No, the world is an illusion. Certainties. That's what I'm looking for. But for you, no certainties, or just one.
Well, but if everything was certain, how would we still be surprised? How would we still, if I knew for certain, if I was going to sit down now that I would write a beautiful piece of music, how would that surprise me? So it's this whole dance where things go wrong, as we call them, and things go beautiful, and it's this movement of life. It's the river that flows, that sometimes is very gentle and sometimes it's this big stream, and it's, if you look at water, it can be healing and purifying, but it can also destroy everything. And so an answer is like the last chapter of a book. It's the end of the movie, but I want to see the movie. I don't want it to end.
And it's great you give the example of a movie. In a movie, I don't read the synopsis before I watch anything, because I don't want to know anything about what is going to happen. But in my life,
because we're very attached to our life. We take ourselves very seriously because everything has to go right with Joris. So I plan this. If this happens in my life, it will be a good thing. If that happens in my life, it's a bad thing. Truth is, I don't know. The things that I thought were bad at the time turned out to be the greatest blessings. Things that I thought were, the biggest opportunities turned out to be useless. And then still, maybe 10 years on, it turns out to be the opposite again.
There's some Dutch teacher, Alexander Smit, who passed away, once said, in the beautiful, the ugly is already captured or hidden, and the beautiful is also already captured. So it's still all both sides of the same coin, and we tend to think, oh, this is beautiful, and stick to that and think it's going to be beautiful forever, but it doesn't work that way.
Well, earlier you asked, you said something about, if everything would always be peaceful, wouldn't that be boring? Well, that in a way that would be, but if we lose our attachment to life, has to be a certain way, and we just flow and dance with whatever is happening. Even moments where I'm depressed or where I'm insecure, and even those are just movements of life, and the less I get attached to them, the less I start using those kind of labels, because actually what I used to call insecure is just my heart that's beating a bit faster and my breath that goes a bit higher, and if I truly feel what's happening in that moment, it's just I'm actually very alive.
We search for that when we go to an amusement park. We get into the rides that gives us the chills and the thrills, and goes up and down, and but it's we get attached to the movie that we're watching.
instead of seeing, hey, this is just, you know, the chapter where the challenges come for our hero in the movie.
Yeah. And could you say that you are you detached from the movie? Are you like in a place where you're just the observer, or are you still active inside the movie?
I'm way more connected to it than I ever used to be, and at the same time I'm detached from the actual story. What I mean is that when people come to me, they often have this long story of their life and all the things that they find challenging or consider problems, and that's just a story. It's a story, and that story, if you talk to the same person a year after, it will be a different story. But the heart of that person is still there, it's still beating. And so if I connect, if I feel and wonder about the person that's sitting in front of me, then it doesn't really matter what story they tell. That's just the story that's playing in that moment. And that's, you know, something that's changing all the time. But the eternity of who they are, of their heart, of their soul, that's unchanging. It's you know, it's a miracle. It's eternal, always.
Yeah. This talk is for also our channel Advaita FM. So let me throw some Advaita jargon at you, okay, if you're okay with that. I mentioned free will. That's a subject you can talk for hours about. How is that for you? Have you made choices in your life, or did things just happen?
I'm not sure if the thing starts with if I say I have a free will, is that I start with I. And so how do I know there's an I that's separate from not I? And I don't have an answer to that. So how could I ever get to the part of free will? It's first I haven't found the true separation of myself as the rest of the world. There is a deep connect. We are deeply connected, whether we see that on a very spiritual level or on a very practical level. If I push you, you move. So there's a connection there.
Yeah.
So free will or not free will, I think it's beyond what our mind could ever comprehend, and I don't think it's very interesting to spend my life thinking about that. Where it's one of the things that I noticed in that is that life often has solutions or adventures that are so much more incredible than I could have ever thought of. So I'm not that interested in my free will or my will, because I found that yes, they are lovely adventures, but the adventures of life are so much more beautiful and great.
Yeah.
But I do need a little bit of trust. That's true. I need to trust that, oh, there's an adventure and this is unexpected. I didn't see this one coming, but let's trust it anyway, and let's flow with that anyway.
Go for it.
Yeah, in a way, go for it. Yeah.
In our Dutch interview, you told me the story about how a man came at a wedding to you, a wedding you weren't supposed to be, or and he said, come with me to LA and make some music for my documentary. All these kind of coincidences. Could you say that there's a magical force going on which orchestrates that? Or is that life itself which sees opportunities and grabs them? Or connects people? Or creates situations?
But again, I think that boils down to if I see myself as separate, then I see myself also as very limited in time. You know, I'm alive, 80, 90, 100 years, if we're very lucky. And so then it becomes very important what happens to Joris. But if I look at the whole of history, even if we take just a slice of history, the human history, which is, you know, in eternity is just a small one, then those 80 years, they hardly matter. You know, there's this whole movement, and life develops and discovers new things, and a society starts and it ends again, and there's this whole dance that's happening. And so if I dare to look beyond my personal interest, then it doesn't really matter if something has always the best outcome for Joris as an individual. but I deeply trust that it has the best outcome for life as a whole. And you talked earlier about events with that happen on the other end of the world, and obviously in the United States there's a new president coming, and there's a whole fight going on with the oil pipeline that's being built, and it's very difficult for us to keep trusting that eventually
it's all for the good.
Well, I wouldn't say the good, it's just life developing itself and discovering itself. And maybe, and you could say, and I always say maybe because we never know, but maybe it's how life brings us together. Maybe we need those challenges in order to unite as a human race.
Yeah.
And maybe we need a few thousand years more of those challenges before we say, hey, what on earth are we doing?
Yeah.
Instead of celebrating how beautiful we keep on fighting each other. But I can't force you to be peaceful. I can't force you to love yourself or to... So everybody needs to discover that for themselves.
In their own time.
In their own time. And that journey is a beautiful journey, and it's not an important journey because it's life that is happening right now. And it's not about some goal of discovering myself, because as soon as I start believing that, then I could say, I discovered myself a little bit, so I'm better than those people who haven't discovered themselves. And we found another way to discriminate.
Yeah.
And now it's not in color or it's not in religion, but it's in how smart I am or how wise I am. But that's still a deep denial of the magic that we have as a human being. Purely the fact that we are able to discover ourselves or be completely unaware and unawake.
Yeah.
Because maybe being unawake is actually much more evolved than being awake from some perspectives. To see myself as separate and to see myself as not enlightened and not see the miracle, maybe that's actually a much bigger miracle than feeling how I'm part of everything.
Yeah. But still, we both know the suffering that comes with feeling separated.
Yeah. It's a shame that we make ourselves suffer.
Yeah.
Over and over again.
You still feel that deep, deep longing for home, unity, love, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And the search goes on and on. Bigger
and
house.
As long as we keep searching, we won't realize that we were always at home. That we never left home. That we don't need to find a key because there's not even a door.
Yeah.
So there's this, we are home. We've always been home. It's just our mind where we create these great travels of not being home.
Yeah. A great fantasy world. And English teacher Tony Parsons calls this the open secret, what we're talking about. He says you can, if you just look for one moment, you can see it everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how we how we don't see it.
Yeah, it's like looking for the glasses which are on your nose or on your head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually an expression I've used before.
Yeah. You wrote a book.
Yeah.
It's in Dutch. Is it also in English?
Not yet. I hope that it'll be translated soon.
And in Dutch, can you give us the title in English?
The title is "My Heart Is Not in a Hurry."
It's a sentence from a poem or the title of a poem?
Yeah, it's one of the poems. So the book are a number of poems, which are just sometimes very small poems about how beautiful life is, or people, or just and it's partially a story about my journey through life, both physical and spiritual, if you want to use that word. Yeah.
And is there when the camera was off, we talked about that you see the difference between gurus on a big chair on a stage and just a regular guy like you and me talking about this. What is the danger of looking up to a guru on a stage?
Well, I don't believe there's any danger in anything. So if that's what inspires you, please do that. And but there is. We cannot see in another human being what's not in us. So if I'm with a teacher that I see as an enlightened teacher, I could never see that unless that is in me. And it's very easy to, we can easily forget that. We're looking at that person and saying, oh, that person knows it everything, and that makes me inadequate because I need to be like that person. But the truth is, you could never experience that unless it was in you. But your expression of that same truth is slightly different than that guru. And if you go to the next guru, he'll express the same truth in a different way. And I think that's the part we never learned, that it's okay to have your own expression, that whatever you see as inadequate about yourself is actually are your gifts, are the image of God. That my doubts, nobody can have doubts like I have them, and they make me beautiful. Nobody can cry tears like I can cry them, and that makes me beautiful. Nobody can say very stupid, silly things the way I can.
Yeah.
And so it's very easy to look at all the achievements, and we talked a little bit about this before, where you said, why don't you speak more about all the achievements you had when you were doing music and use that as a vehicle. As a vehicle. And well, maybe I could, maybe I shouldn't, I don't know. But again, we trick ourselves so easily into the illusion that, oh, he has something to say because he achieved this or that.
Yeah.
But with that, I miss the wisdom that a little child has in front of me, who has no knowledge about anything and just speaks from their heart and makes a drawing and says, look at how beautiful it is, even though it's just 3 lines. And as an adult, we would never dare to do that anymore.
He knows how special he is, the child. Yeah.
Without knowing it.
Yeah,
but he's living it, or she's living it.
Demonstrating it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's beautifully said. So we're all each other's teachers.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All the time.
Everybody becomes your teacher, and I think especially if you feel that you need to learn something, then probably the people that rob us the most, that anger us the most, are our best teachers in learning a little bit more about ourselves.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we're talking about learning of the mind, but our heart doesn't need to learn anything. It's always known that we're complete, and that's what we knew as a child. And then, like we were saying earlier, our parents and our teachers and our friends start putting information into us, and we start reading it later on and seeing television, and then we start believing that only if our mind has certain clarity that we are good enough.
Yeah.
But that's just a thought. It's just a belief. Well, we don't need to believe everything we think.
Well, that's beautifully said, but it's also the example you get at home when you see your parents worrying about everything that's on TV and everything that's in the newspaper. Then you think, well, maybe I think I have to worry also, because
yeah, how can I be happy while my best friend is worrying?
Yeah.
But am I helping my best friend by worrying as well, or do I inspire the people I meet and the world more by seeing the divinity in them and in myself?
Yeah. Something about depression. There are people who are depressed and get in touch with these kind of teachings, talks, books. Is that enough, or should you also take medicine?
I don't think there's one way. We each need to find our journey, and my journey is different from yours and different from the next person. So if there would be a universal code, like 5 steps, take these 5 steps, and then you're awake and you're always happy, and obviously we all hope that it's like that, but it's not like that. There's 0 steps, and that's what we are.
Yeah.
And we need to discover that what we are right now, including that depression, including the medication we're taking or not taking, is how we need to be in this moment.
Yeah.
Despite how challenging that may feel, and how much it takes a huge amount of trust and guts to say, wow, I'm okay the way I am. I'm perfect the way I am, even though I'm completely depressed. Because there's nothing wrong with our depression. Let's for a moment say that instead of on Facebook or social media, where somebody says, I've had this achievement, and everybody cheers you. They give likes and hearts and whatever. But if somebody would write, or people would write, I've got this big depression now, and everybody would cheer for that, saying, wow, how great, you've got this depression.
Yeah.
Wow, I wish I had a depression like that. We would feel completely different about depression.
I think so also, yeah.
Yeah, but actually sometimes depression is just, our longing to find some stillness. Because if we look in nature, trees aren't always carrying leaves. In fall they drop their leaves, and in winter they're very still, and there's not much movement happening. But we human beings feel that we always have to be, the economy has always be rising, otherwise we call it the depression.
The Great Depression.
Yeah. But and the same in our life, we have to move up in our jobs, we have to get a bigger house, we have to have a bigger car. But maybe sometimes those moments where life is going slightly slowing us down and saying, look a little bit inwards, because there's a lot of beauty to discover there.
Yeah.
And there's, in that stillness, or in that depression, or in that not knowing anything, there's a great gift to be discovered there.
Yeah. So the suffering starts when we want to get rid of something.
Yeah, the suffering is our fight against whatever is happening right now in this moment.
Yeah.
That's what makes us suffer. And
even calling it a depression is a slightly being at war with something, putting labels on it.
You could say, well, we love labeling things, and it's practical. I mean, if I wouldn't label a chair, I would have to discover every time what to do with it. So I wouldn't know that I could sit on it. So labels are very practical, but they can also be very limiting. If I label, like I said earlier, I can label something insecure, or I can label something, whatever label I give
ugly.
it. Yeah, ugly or beautiful. And with that, I fail to see that there's beauty and ugliness in anything that I discover. If I look at a beautiful forest, it's very easy to see how beautiful it is. But if I look at a garbage truck or field, it's more challenging for most people. But actually both of them are beautiful, because in that garbage there's the lives of 1,000 people collected there, and their whole whatever they've been living, and all their love and all their pain, it's all collected there.
And we know if we see a building that's not been lived in for 100 years, totally distorted, we can see the beauty in that.
Yeah.
But in our own lives, everything has to be perfect, or be perfect as we think it should be. Yeah. We don't see the perfection in someone with a scar in his face, or someone who walks not very fast, and
we that's why we love Photoshop so much. We want to polish everything away that makes us human beings.
But we see it. If you look, you see that, you think that it's not. You see, and you think that's photoshopped. Yeah, that's not real.
Yeah, but it's not just about the visuals, but we want to do that with our whole lives. We go a day with friends somewhere, and maybe we didn't have the best of times, and so we're dragging along, and then somebody takes out the camera, and we all go, and that's the picture you see on Facebook. Yeah. And so that's what I see all the time around me. I see people smiling and showing how happy they are. Yeah. But that's just such a small part of their life. But what makes my heart tick much more is what makes them cry, what makes them dance, what makes them fall in love, what makes them sing. It's all these movements of emotions and expressions that we have that make us a complete human being. Yeah.
What makes them angry?
Oh, anger is such a pure, beautiful emotion. Yeah. And it can become, because we suppress it, and if we do that long enough, it's like a steam pan. At some point it explodes, and then it becomes something that damages a lot of people around us. But if there's just anger in the moment, then if you look again at children who are often living very pure, they're angry, and 1 minute later they're playing again with their friends. It's just one of the expressions they have.
No problem. Not thinking all day, I was angry this morning. I should go and see a therapist.
Yeah, we can spend our whole lives thinking about what we should have done and what we're going to do. Yeah. Instead of just, enjoying life as it is right now.
Yeah. But still, that's part of the imperfection. that being able to think that you should have done otherwise.
Yeah,
that's beautifully
it's
said.
a lovely paradox, isn't it? And we can spend again our whole life going round in circles.
Yeah, but it brings peace when you say that, because you don't have to get rid of anything.
Oh no,
even not the bad thoughts or the parts of your life when you were worrying a lot, or when you missed a chance, or you broke a relationship which you shouldn't have.
Well, apparently you should have, otherwise it wouldn't have happened. Yeah. There's a deep trust in knowing that
no mistakes.
That there's no mistakes. Maybe there are if I'm looking at life from a very small personal perspective, I could see some things as mistakes. Yeah. But if I dare to see myself as part of a much bigger community and life itself, then there's no mistakes. Yeah, there are slight bumps. But those bumps are just, again, I because I love water so much, if water if a river flows, there's some rocks in there, and that's actually what steers the water very gently in where it needs to go.
In direction, yeah. Brings us back to what I said about a half an hour ago. I and a lot of other people want certainties. 1 + 1 is 2. And then we think, then I know for sure. I can park that in my memory, 1 and 1 is 2. But we try to put a kind of mathematics over life. You know, to know for sure that I'm going to have enough money in 2 years. You know, I use the calculator a lot. Yeah. I say, here I have my savings, and I'm now 42, so I'm going to live more, let's say for 30 years, so 30 times 12 is 360, I need 360,000 euros to have 1,000 euros every month until I die.
My mind is dazzling.
Yeah. But that's the kind of certainties we're looking for. That's if I could sign somewhere for an insurance that guarantees me that I have 1,000 euros every month until I die, a lot of people would sign up for that.
But the thing is, that's never a guarantee. Even if you have that in the bank, it's just actually life becomes a bit of a threat if that happens. Because if I have that certain amount in the bank that you calculated, and then something changes in the economy, or we get a different government that changes the interest rate or whatever, or just money devaluates more than we expected, then suddenly life is...
I know, but it's at the moment when I put down the calculator, and one moment it gives me a kind of reassurance, and then immediately after 5 minutes those thoughts come up, but what if the euro collapses?
Yeah, and so we can never be alive.
Yeah.
But again, I come back to what I said earlier. We have no idea whether or not we're going to be alive next year.
Or next month.
Or next month, or even next 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean that I have to live like an idiot and make debts and everything. But if I celebrate life right now as it is, then I don't need to worry about all these things. And the nice thing is also that I know from experience, we need less. We don't need all these things that give us security. Because I know that a house won't give me security. My friendship is much more important to me than any house I could ever have.
Yeah. But what gives you that sense of peace then?
To me, it's no longer fighting life as it is happening right now. It's dancing with life as it is happening right now and not questioning it. So I don't wonder too much about, is this the right thing? No, apparently it's happening right now, and so why not go with it and explore it and dance with it? And the most magical moments happen with friends or with people or with in general, and they're not the big stories of me traveling to the other end of the world and having a miracle, whatever. But it's in the very simplicity of a friend who shares whatever hurt them or whatever inspires them, or maybe just sitting down and having a cup of coffee together. Yeah. Sometimes that is the real magic.
So you're just celebrating life all the time?
Yeah. I wouldn't use the word celebrating.
Sharing?
I'm living life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because celebrating could appear as if it's always happy. It isn't.
No.
Like I can be very sad, but I'm not sad that I'm sad.
Yeah.
It's just one of the movements that happens in life. And yes, if something happens to a friend of mine or someone that I care greatly about, of course it hurts me, and there'll be tears. But how beautiful to just let those tears be without having to stop them or without having to know all the answers, because sometimes we don't know the answers. Sometimes we just sit still with our friends and we haven't got a clue together.
Yeah. So you're not rejecting life as it comes or as it is.
No.
It's totally accepted or totally embraced.
Yeah. Even the non-acceptance of it.
If that would appear.
Yeah. No, that appears as well, of course.
Yeah.
Of course it appears because...
Yeah, you sometimes don't accept things.
Of course. I wouldn't know an example right now, but of course there are things happening in life where you think, oh, I don't want that to happen. If I miss a bus or miss a train, I don't want that.
Yeah. But it's good that you say that, because in some spiritual teachings, if I would walk out the door and step into a pile of dog poo, I would have to go, namaste.
Oh my God!
Namaste.
But if I do that, what happens if because you got that a lot with positive thinking, as they call it. But then what I'm doing is I'm saying namaste to the pile of shit that's there. But I'm saying to what I'm feeling, that's not okay.
Yeah.
But the curse that's coming, if I'm stepping into that, why shouldn't that be allowed?
Yeah.
That's part of life as well. Yeah. So if I step into that, I would curse very loudly.
Yeah, shit, what's happening? Yeah. Who let this dog do his thing here?
Of course. And that's it's part of the expression as well.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I could stay stuck in that forever. I could go, I could spend a day thinking, oh, I should have said namaste. I wasn't allowed to curse.
Yeah.
Or I could stay upset with whomever the dog owner is for another week. But I can also say, oh, that was that moment that happened. I didn't like it. And I, had to change shoes or clean my shoes. And obviously that's a very dirty job to do.
Yeah.
And I move on. And because the next moment is already happening and there's another adventure waiting.
Yeah. Beautifully said. When people want to get in touch with you, is there also an English website?
Yeah, it's jorisvincken.com.
And your last name is spelled Vincken?
Yes.
Okay, we'll put a link underneath the video interview.
Yeah.
Are you planning to travel the world and speak as passionate about this as you just did for the last 50 minutes?
Yeah, I sort of go wherever I'm invited.
Yeah.
So I don't have specific plans of wanting to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And I love whatever invitation happens. And sometimes these invitations are not verbally. Sometimes, I don't know, a friend is in need somewhere and you travel there, and while you're there, things happen.
Yeah. And how do people react in your environment? How you call it, your family? Do they now see a different version of Joris than, let's say, 25 years ago?
I wouldn't know exactly. I would have to ask them. I think to a large extent, we see the people we meet. We don't really see. I don't really see Patrick. I see who I think Patrick is,
and that interpretation.
Yeah, and that says a lot about me. Whatever my interpretation of someone with a beard is, or someone with a headphone is, or someone with the jeans is, that's so I can't really see you. I have no idea who's really sitting there.
Yeah.
So obviously people who know me a long time will partially see me the way they used to see me.
Yeah.
And most likely I'll respond to that. So I'll respond much more the way they used to know me.
Yeah.
Because obviously life is it's not a one-way street, it's an interaction. If I'm sitting down with one musician and I sing one note and he sings another note, and within 5 minutes we've got a beautiful song.
Yeah.
And with another musician just as talented, I can sit for days and nothing happens.
Yeah.
Why is that? It's not because I'm great or that person is great or not so great. It's just because there's some magic happening between people. And So some people might feel very inspired by me. Others will say, what a lunatic he is. Some people will love one poem that I write and say the other ones, I can't, it's not for me. Some people will love some of the music that I used to do and not like what I'm writing now, or the other way around. And
yeah, it's a constant improvisation,
yeah,
interaction between people.
Yeah, and anybody who will tell you that they have the answer or know whether that's to making money or whether that's to finding the right song or whether that's to spiritual enlightenment, anybody who says they've got the answer, I would be slightly careful.
Yeah.
Because they might have found the answer that works for them.
Yeah.
But that doesn't need to be the answer that works for me.
Yeah. Final question about music. You've made a lot of music in your life. Could you say that did this come through you? Was it a gift from God, as some musicians call it? I think my question is, where does inspiration come from? This inspiration to write that song, to make that music.
Well, to an extent, we never know, because I don't know. I think every person has talents, and for me, the first time that I sat behind the piano when I was, I think, 7 or 8, there was this connection between us. Even though I couldn't really play, I wrote my first very simple song within a week. So there was something there.
Yeah.
And for other people, it's drawing. I can't draw nothing because I no matter how hard I try, it just I don't have that talent. Other people have it with speaking. Other people have it with whatever their talent is. So there is some aspect that's natural to us. Maybe it's our genes or the way we were raised or whatever. And there's an extent of fine-tuning the instrument that we are. So if my talent is to draw, the more I draw, the more I can do that without thinking. Yeah. So if I sit behind the piano now, I could almost be falling asleep and my fingers will still be playing because I've done it over and over and over again. Yeah. And so I don't need to think which chord am I going to play. It's just I've got this feeling and my fingers play that. Just like walking, we have no idea how we walk, but we do it all the time.
It's natural.
It's natural.
Yeah.
And so there's this fine-tuning, and I think the more tuned we are to it, the less we need to think, and it's always our thoughts that get in the way of inspiration. And then comes back to your question, am I writing it or is it divine inspiration? I don't know. I do know that the less I think, the more beautiful it often is. Yeah. So sometimes I wake up with a melody and I quickly jump out of bed and write it down. Or with the poem, I wake up in the middle of the night and write down 5 sentences on my phone. And the next morning I might, change the language a little bit or fix some spelling mistakes in there. Yeah. Is that me doing it? Is it live happening? I don't really know. I think it's, again, this dance between me and live and me spending ages with it. Because in the beginning, when I started writing, there was nothing. That, first times I started writing songs, they were very silly songs. And if I would have given up then, I would never have written anything that was worthwhile. But because I kept doing it, at some points there were songs where I thought, wow, did I write that? Or did that happen through my fingers?
So the pencil had to be sharpened, or has to be sharpened.
Yeah.
And then you get more fine-tuned.
Yeah.
And
And it's
but it didn't take you did it take you effort, or was it just all coming natural to you?
Well, it took me effort, but I didn't mind the effort. Because, for example, one of the things that I'm very passionate about with music is how it sounds. I love music that just sounds good. It has purely the quality of how it's recorded. Yeah. And so I spent ages learning about how to operate a mixing desk and how to get the best reverb and the best microphone. Yes, that took a lot of effort, but I loved every second of it. I would, in the evening go to bed reading about it, or later on the internet finding stuff about it. And
passion.
It's passion, And so with piano, I there were times where I was practicing scales because I wanted my fingers to be a little bit more flexible. That wasn't maybe the most fun part of doing it, but
you still loved it.
I still loved it because help me getting myself out of the way of just letting that music flow.
Yeah.
And if my fingers are all tangled up, then you know, it stops me from just letting that music flow. So
could we say, concluding, that we have to find our passion, or let the passion find us?
I wouldn't say any conclusion.
No, but I'm just thinking.
Yeah. Again, I think we can. It's so easy to turn something into a goal again, where we often fail to see the talents that we already have, and so we are looking for. So maybe if I'm a great musician, I want to be able to make great films as well.
Yeah.
And not seeing that what to me is completely natural. For example, me playing on the piano and just improvising, and people tell me, "Wow, that brought me to tears." And I'm thinking, but I'm just fiddling a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's very easy not to see our own talents.
Yeah.
So finding it, or being found by it,
or being open, just
but just do what you're already doing, and enjoy that, and let it, you know, don't think too much about it. Just let it happen as it happens.
Spontaneous.
Yeah, but even wanting to be spontaneous is not that spontaneous.
No. But,
Don't Worry, Be Happy is this great song by Bobby McFerrin, who's a great human being, by the way. At least I don't know him personally, but if you see him sing, that makes my heart sing. But I think he's very right. I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. We want to find that holy grail, failing to see that we are the holy grail.
Yeah.
That's what we are. So whether I make beautiful music or not, whether I inspire just one person or whether I inspire 1 million people, that doesn't matter. We're still this living miracle, and it's so easy to stop failing to see that, because we feel that only if we achieve something we're good enough.
Yeah.
The truth is, we are good enough always. There's no way we could ever not be good enough.
Yeah, beautifully said. Thank you very much, Joris, and we're gonna follow you with all the things you do.